Okay, 3.4, word problems. So we've done sine law. In chapter 3, we have done cosine law individually. Now we're going to put them both together. You might use one, you might use the other, you might use both in order to solve a problem involving a triangle. Okay, so it's an application of the skills that you've learned. And we did some word problems with just sine law a couple of lessons ago, but now, like I said, it could be sine law, could be cosine law, or maybe it's just math 10 stuff. Maybe it's the SOHCAHTOA stuff. You're going to need to solve a couple of word problems. And I can't give you an example of every single word problem you're going to come up against, right? But even if I could, that wouldn't be a good thing. We want you to figure these things out. We want you to think critically. That's the whole point of taking math in the first place. So, having said that, this one is similar to a couple I'm going to give you in the assignment. Okay, so a helicopter, we know what that thing is, right? So we're going to take some common knowledge that we have, and that's going to help us first draw this picture. You have to draw a picture with a word problem. It's impossible. Having said that, sure, there's someone out in the world who could probably do it, but 99.9% of us, you need to visualize this thing. You have to draw an appropriate picture. So you know what a helicopter looks like? Okay, something like that. There it is. It's flying 100 meters above an island. So what does above mean? Okay, we know the island's beneath it, but what it doesn't say is when that 100 meters is given, that's a height. Height implies perpendicular, right? Straight up, straight down. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, well, I'm telling you. So we know there's a right angle here, okay? It doesn't mean like this. Okay, anytime you get a word problem where it has a building or a tree, we're always going to assume there's a perpendicular there. Okay, so we got that piece of information. There's a number. It's in our picture. Keep reading. Angle of depression. That's specific information. That's, well, it's a concept that I hope you got in grade 10. If not, well, I'll tell you what that means. From a horizontal, if we look up, I'm sure I've given this to you before, that's called an angle of elevation, okay? And then from the horizontal down, that is an angle of depression. So that's what it means, okay? So it's always from a horizontal. So the angle of depression from the helicopter to one end of the island doesn't say if it's out the front or the back of the helicopter. Let's go front. Again, most times when we're flying in the air, once we get there, planes and helicopters, they travel horizontally, don't they? All right? Until they land. So if it's flying, then we're going to assume that it's going horizontally. So angle of depression to one end of the island from the horizontal down, what does 42 degrees look like? Well, there's 90. Halfway would be 45, so a little less than that, okay? That's 42 degrees. Angle of depression from the horizontal down. That's an end of an island. Remember, this thing's flying above an island. So if I'm going to draw my island, looking down at one end of it, there it is, 42 degrees. And to the other, well, doesn't say anything else, so we're talking about another angle of depression. To the other end, well, here's the other end of the island, so if someone was looking out the back, down to the end of the island, okay? Visualize that. If you've been in a plane, you can look down on things, right? It's always at some angle. That is 50 degrees. From the horizontal down, that's an angle of depression. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. That's it. That's all the information in my picture. Okay, I got 3 numbers there. They're all in my picture. What's the question? How long's the island? How about good old X? Okay, so this whole thing from there to there, that's the length of the island. And again, we're assuming this is horizontal, aren't we? It doesn't say it in the question, but there's always some assumptions we have to make. So I don't have to look at any of this anymore. I got it all in my picture right there. How do you solve that for X? I'm going to pause a minute, okay? I want you to think. It doesn't help me just to tell you how to do it, because there's more than one way to know how to do it sometimes. So this involves a little thinking, of course. This involves some creativity. Ask yourself, what can you do? What do you know how to do? Don't just in 3 seconds go, I don't know, I don't get it. Right? That doesn't help you. We're trying to challenge you here, trying to make you think, make your brain stronger. Well, first thing I see is all of this is 180 degrees, right? From there to there. If I've got 50 here and I've got 42 here, what is that big angle? Because what we want to do, okay, again, what chapter is this? Triangles. There's a triangle. I need to know some information in here, inside my triangle. Okay, it doesn't help me have these angles out here, right? I'm not looking at this triangle. I want to know X here. What's going to help me get X? Well, I've learned something where if I have an angle opposite X, that might help me. So let's find out what that angle is. And maybe that's not your first step. Maybe you see something else to do. That's fine too. So 180 minus 50 minus 42 is 88 degrees. Okay? So all of that is 88 degrees. So you got to write it, like, don't just put it here. Obviously this angle is not 88. It's the whole thing, right? Let's get rid of that. And let me move that down a bit. This length is 100. That's the height, okay? So 88x, all right? If I'm looking at this big triangle here, if I had that angle, there's the side opposite that angle. See, it's a little trickier now, right? Because you see this line here, this height. There's 3 triangles there, isn't there? There's this right angle triangle. There's this right angle triangle, and then there's the big triangle. So when you're doing your sine law, you must make sure, okay, that you're looking in the right spots. This is a side opposite this angle here. There's a side opposite that angle here. I've got that. So we know sine law, sine of 88 over x is, but I need another 2 pieces of information. I don't have this angle. I don't have that side. That doesn't help me. I don't have this. I don't have that. But how can I get them? What can I do? There's a little trick here. Maybe we need. Okay? How can I get this angle? Does anyone know this relationship? Have we seen this before? If I have 2 parallel lines, and you know this angle, do you know the alternate interior angle? Yes, you do. They're the same, right? So we learned this back in chapter 2. So if that, say, was 42 degrees, what's this? The same thing, because these lines are parallel. Prior skills, right? Yeah, that's 42 degrees right there. And vice versa. Again, these are both horizontal, aren't they? They're parallel lines. If that's 50, that is 50. So if I'm looking at this and this, I know that's 42. sine of 42, but what is this? How can I get that? Well, remember, there's a right angle triangle here. I'm just going to draw. Oh, that was blue and I went over top of yellow and it made green. Maybe I bet I used another color. Oh, it's getting real dark. I'm just drawing that. Okay? You're allowed to do this. That's a right angle down here. That's 100. This is 50 degrees. Don't forget your grade 10 stuff, right? And actually, you don't even need that. You can use sine law, but SOHCAHTOA can help you solve this thing, right? So first, let me do the grade 10 stuff, and then I'll tell you that you can still do it with sine law. So SOHCAHTOA, I want to know this. I don't want to call it x, because I've already got an x. Let's call it y, okay? I want to solve for that, because once I have that, then I can solve for x. So label the triangle, that's a hypotenuse. For this angle, that's the opposite. And this is an adjacent, but I don't care. So O and H, sine of 50 is opposite over hypotenuse. I can solve this thing for y. Okay? So I can cross multiply whatever trick you have. It's this times this divided by that one. So y sine 50 is 100 times 1 divided by sine 50. Okay, don't worry, I'll show you sine law in a sec. So y is 100 divided by, if you can read that, sine 50. And make sure you're in degrees, which I'm not. Okay, 100 divided by sine 50. This is y. 130.54. Don't round this. This is not our final answer. Okay? I got to use that to get my other thing. But before I do that, let's say you forgot SOHCAHTOA. Well, you know this is 90 degrees, don't you? So sine law says, which one do I want on top? I don't know, it doesn't matter. Sine 50 over 100 is sine of 90 over y, right? So cross multiply y sine 50 is sine 90 times 100. And you guys don't know this, but that is exactly what I have right here, because you know what the sine of 90 is? 1. That's exactly what this says, 1 times 100. So do the same thing, you don't need to know that, but if you're curious. Y is sine 90, 1 times 100, and of course I'm going to get the same thing, divided by sine 50. So even if you forget your SOHCAHTOA, you can still use sine law, okay? Because a lot of kids, once they get to grade 11, they know sine law and they know cosine law. They I don't know, they don't want to use SOHCAHTOA anymore for some reason. So you'll still get the same answer, 130.54. So lastly, sine 88 over x is, got pretty messy, didn't it? Orange. So sine 88 over x. I'm looking at the big triangle, right? So don't do this. That's not the same triangle. That's two different triangles. You got to do this. Sine 88 over x is sine 42 over, now I know that, 130.54. Cross multiply. Get rid of that. Okay, sine 88 times that x times sine 42, divide by sine 42, and x is, close that bracket or hit enter, otherwise it's wrong, that times that, divided by that, 194.97, I'll call that 195. Next is 195. What's a unit? Meters. Okay. Whew. Last step, look at it and make sure it kind of makes sense. It's 100 meters in the air. Does the island seem like it could be 195 meters? Okay, well, pretty short little island, but yeah, it seems reasonable, okay? So again, take the information, draw a picture, and this wasn't, like I say, this wasn't the only way I could solve this problem. Maybe I didn't want to find that. I could have found that one instead and using this triangle, okay? There's lots of options. There may be other ways, but, okay? Like I say, sometimes we don't want to tell you exactly how to do every question because then it kind of kills that thinking that you're going to do. Having said that, that's the same as a couple of questions in the assignment. And this will be it. In the past, of course, in a classroom, I have done other parts to chapter 3, but this will be it for chapter 3. And then I got to decide whether I'm going to go to chapter 4 or do something else. But I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Okay, where's the questions here? Page 1. '47, number 1, 4 to 7. I believe 7's like this one, and I think 11 might be 2. Okay, so if you got any questions, of course, ask. Otherwise, we'll have a little quiz on word problems in a few days.